high-quality nourishing ingredients like squalane, coconut oil, kapuaku butter, and jojoba seed oil. Experience the new OUAI Melrose Place Body Cream and Body Cleanser. Your body, your way. Go to THEOUAI.com and use the code BELIEVE, BLEAV, is in the episode notes, to get 15% off your entire purchase. That's 15% off your order at THEOUAI.com with code BELIEVE. Here I go, going down.
Going down.
Hey, listeners, and a special hey, hi, hello to all of you patrons out there. Oh, you don't know what a patron is? You don't know what a patron is? Well, it's a listener out there who says, I feel very invested in the Ambin universe,
Hell
and I
yeah.
want to give $1,
$2
or $3 a month,
$4
to support the Sci-Fi Side podcast. Well, you can. The link to the Patreon is in the episode notes. So go find that, click it, and join the Patreon. We do a book giveaway every month as well. So for the month of April 2022, we will be giving away 9 Bar Blues.
Nice.
9 Bar Blues coming at you. So patrons, we love you. We can't wait to meet you one day at one of those meet and greets. We will surely do one day out there. And we want to congratulate or shout out or welcome rather Bree and Courtney to the Patreon party.
Courtney.
Happy to have you here. Happy to have you as my hype man always been.
Yeah.
All right then. Well, let's go ahead and get started with the show. You feeling good today?
Fuck yeah, man.
Okay. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Side under the Believe Podcast Network. It really is a podcast about Black science fiction and fantasy and staying on the same page of our marriage. Today for episode 75, we'll be watching Son of Ingagi. I think I said that wrong last week, but it's me, so I probably did. Son of Ingagi, it's a short film. It's a classic film. It was the very first Black science fiction film with a Black director whose name is, was it Richard?
So all
Let
right.
me look it up real quick.
This is where I fucked up, y'all.
It
It is the first film with an all-black cast, but it was definitely not a Black director.
Benjamin. Richard Kahn is not a Black director?
No, he is not, but he mostly directed all-black cast.
Ooh, that
So
is.
I have broken my own rule.
You told me, you were like, I had a small mistake.
So okay. I first heard of this book by Robin. Oh, my watch is going. By Robin Means Coleman, and called Horror Noir.
He's holding it up for the camera.
I'm holding it up for the camera. This is a must-have book in like any bookshelf. It is really incredible. It's a very accessible read. It's academic, but it's easy to understand. So it's not like too heady, and it's amazing. So I first heard of this here, and I remember me wanting to cover this film a while back, and I don't know. I remember being like, oh, we can't cover it because it is a white director, and then I forgot that it was a white director, and I wanted to cover it because I was just thinking of like short classic films that we could, because you're busy, you know, and I'm busy. You're pregnant. I'm working with your pregnancy.
Correct.
And so I wanted to try something different. But it is important. It's an important film for Black horror. She makes a really good case how important it is in this book. And it's an all-black cast. So fucked up there anyway.
So you should apologize to camera 1, camera 2, to me, to your future
sorry.
child.
But, you know, sometimes it's okay to break rules sometimes.
Ooh, white supremacy is a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
So you're saying I broke the one rule of the podcast, but it's okay to break rules sometimes.
Yeah.
You're standing by that confidently.
I mean, Son of Ingagi is so important because it's an all-black cast.
Yes, and it was made in the 1940s. So when we looked up these directors, we didn't have pictures to verify their race. But Ben fucked it up. But you know what? We watched it, and we're going to own our mistake and just, you know, It's funny because right before this podcast, you were like, just trust me to make the outline. Just trust me to pick the content. I was like, well, I just brought one really great black short film with a black director to the forefront. Like, and you were like, you asked me to do it and I'm going to do it right. And then, womp womp. It's okay though. What? Are you just not going to participate now because you effed up?
No, I mean, you still should trust me.
I should trust you.
You should still trust me because ultimately mistakes show that I'm human
Mm-hmm.
and I recognize mistake, but I'm moving on. And we are going to discuss this film.
All right. How was your weekend?
It got better as the weekend went on, and then it got worse when it ended. Because every weekend is bad when it ends.
Say more.
Well, we went to the Art Institute, which was amazing.
It was. That's why I'm like trying to decide like when it got worse and better and stuff.
It got worse when I came home and we decided to not like forego doing the podcast and do it like on a Monday morning,
Which is what we're doing it now. Yeah.
And that was like, that just hangs over you. Like I realized like any like podcasting stuff we should probably do Saturday morning, first thing, then it's not haunting us throughout the rest of the week.
You feel haunted by our podcast?
I don't feel haunted. I just know that I have to set up everything. We were sort of arguing because we wanted to create like a permanent like workspace in this room in our home, and we have the space, but Amber has this idea that you shouldn't do work in your own bedroom. So I want to put it like a workspace, a table in our bedroom where we sleep. And Amber's like, no, I don't want that. So sound off listeners in the comments. Like, is it okay to work in your own bedroom? Like to set up a table in your own bedroom?
I just want us to be able. So we've been doing this whole declutter thing, right?
We are.
I want some spaces in our. The problem is that we don't have a lot of space, especially with the baby coming. So I want this room to be her room. I want our bedroom to be like our sacred space to be together, which is why we got the TV out of there and things like that. And so I'm somebody who has a really hard time stopping my workflow. So if you put a desk in that bedroom, I'm just going to work all night. So I kind of want that space to be like a force field where no work enters. But you're like, but where's it going to go? Like, I hear that argument as well.
But you don't do that anyway. Like, I'm constantly, when I try to get in bed before you, I'm constantly like rolling over cameras, rolling over computers. Amber will have like cameras, computers, cords, notebooks in the bed. And it feels
I know, but the inconvenience
like
of that
treasure chest.
The inconvenience of you rolling over onto a camera reminds me like, why am I doing work in bed? Whereas if there was a whole desk in there.
You ask your question why you're doing work in bed, but you answer it and then you continue working in bed. How many people work in bed? Sound off in the comments, people. Do you work in bed?
Well, I would also say that I say answer that question if you work from home. Because it's super easy for you to accuse me of like being in your workspace, being in your workflow when you have a full ass job you get to go to.
I'm sorry.
So when you work from home,
workflow. What is workflow?
It's just
I've
like
never heard that term.
the pay, like the work that you have to do during the day. Just
is that like a content creator term?
No, it's just
workflow.
Work, like. You know, your workflow. It's
I've never heard that.
Well, it's a thing. It's how you pace your work and how you like are productive and what means. And so you have a whole ass building that you can go to get work done.
Yeah.
And then when you leave that place, you can leave the work there, which you do. And so I
grade
don't
papers at home. She's taking a sip of her coffee.
Yep.
I do. I grade papers at home. One a week.
One literal paper at this house.
One literal paper a week.
I personally have never seen you grade a paper here in our home, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
They're all on the computer.
Once again, I personally have not seen you grade a paper at home, but that's fine. I wish I had a little home studio office or something because you're right. you do roll over onto cameras, and I wish I just like between our room and this baby's room coming and our living room and kitchen, I don't know where I'm gonna like put all this stuff.
I have an idea, right? Is that if you put a desk inside the bedroom, and then you just put stuff on the desk, and then it's no longer in the bed. I would rather you have like a technological workspace in the bedroom, right? I think that would make a little bit more sense. Think about it. You don't have to do it.
I think this is a moot point with this baby coming in a month. I think we're gonna have to circle back.
Yeah,
because everything's gonna change, and then I'm gonna be sitting on cameras trying to nurse a child, and I'm gonna be like, why is this desk in here?
Speaking of babies, we went to the Art Institute yesterday, and Amber got me a membership to the Art Institute. This whole year has been really interesting, but I had an Art Institute membership in Chicago, which is one of the most beautiful museums. It's incredible. Everyone should go. And I had a student membership for a good long time, and
this is me waiting on the baby.
The baby connections. And so we really haven't been going. And so we went yesterday. It was fantastic. But I saw this wonderful piece of art. I think it was called Charity. And there's this woman. You got one baby sucking on her breast, and another baby sort of reaching up to her, and then the Charity, the mother's tucking in another baby. So she's got 3 babies, triplets, and it's supposed to be an allegory of charity, of how people, charity is this idea of helping everyone and giving. But right next to it, and I've seen this piece I don't know 100 times. I've been going to the Art Institute. I don't even remember. It's one of those Italian. It's like the Italian section on the 2nd floor.
We'll look it up.
And I just noticed that there is a pelican next to the woman nursing, and the pelican is like plucking her breast and feeding the pelican babies next to her blood. And I thought that was such a disturbing image of
a mother's sacrifice.
Of a mother's sacrifice, which is so unhealthy. Like mothers shouldn't sacrifice
anything.
Wow.
You can tell we don't have the child yet.
Yeah. They shouldn't. Or it should be like
because some sacrifices will have to be made.
Anyway, it's a beautiful piece. Everyone should go check it out.
And we mostly got along this weekend. Hot diggity. Right?
We did, yeah.
I can't remember any peak arguments this weekend. We went to the candy store. Well, that's because you kept sugar in my tank.
Oh, yeah. So I have this whole thing, right? The candy store is at Amber. I mean, I want to check in with you because Amber was late at night. She wanted like a Sonic thing. I
just wanted like a quick slushie and go home.
And I didn't want to support Sonic. I didn't want to if I'm not doing an ad for a company, I'd rather shop locally.
Yes, but will you at least admit that as do I, but I think nobody wants to just like give into this wheel of capitalism. Sometimes it literally just comes down to convenience. So will you, like that one time I just wanted a milkshake and we live right across the street from a McDonald's, and we drove like legitimately 30 minutes out of the way for Ben to support a local business. And by the time we got down there, they were closed and blah, blah, blah. And so it's just like I get that you're trying to make these, what is it? There's like no ethical consumption in capitalism. Like, Ben, you try really hard to make these like really great ethical decisions, but in our journey to try to get that milkshake that night, like we didn't even get it because we went to like 3 local places and they were all closed. And McDonald's is like, we're open, girl. Just come on in. But this time there was a local place that was open. It was out of the way from the Sonic, but I still let you take me there.
Yeah. And it turned out to be a better experience.
Oh, much better. Yes.
Yeah. It's like this old retro candy store called Lickety Split, and they do these things called frozen custard. Yeah. It's really amazing.
It was worth it that time.
It was a good fucking time.
That's because I was having a craving at like a reasonable time. But can you sometimes admit like it's convenience? I don't want to like actively just wake up and be a bad person. It comes down to just the convenience. It's like that's right across the street. Like
I never think you ever wake up want to be a bad person. I think you think that about me. Never.
I think you think yeah.
No, absolutely. I just think you sometimes lack vision.
Oh, I lack vision.
And ethics, which is fine.
I'd rather you just think I was a bad person than lacking vision.
And ethics, which I guess that's what a bad person does.
Yeah.
Lacks. No, you're just unaware sometimes.
Oh, it's getting even better. Well, let's go to somebody who actually likes us. You want to read that Apple Podcast rating?
Yeah.
I hope you choke.
The title of it is so good.
This show?
This is from Del Marche via Apple Podcasts.
Period.
Just now started listening. I'm already enjoying it so much. Ben and Amber are so undeniably charming and witty, and the hour literally flies by in a blink because you get so enamored by them. I love their dynamic, and I'm rooting for them in everything. Heart emoji, love.
Oh, that is really kind. I love that the listeners reground us because we think we ain't shit sometimes, you know. Well, I know I'm the shit, but you know.
I know
I've tethered myself to you for the lifetime, for this lifetime.
Yeah. You've tethered, but you've also tethered to other people. Like we've hung out with friends this weekend, and so you're not like
we did.
You're not like, you know.
But you came with me though.
I did.
You were still tethered to me.
That's fine, but sometimes you hang out with people without me. It's fine. I know I'm not. Yeah. If you don't like me, you can just leave.
I'm not going to do that.
You're not tethered.
I would have to figure out my healthcare situation.
Yeah, you would. Which, by the way, Candace, thank you for sending me that insurance lady for private insurance.
Oh, this is a friend of ours. I was like, yeah. Candace?
Yeah, thank you.
You know that name is so triggering now. I was like, Candace Owens? What?
Oh, okay.
On this show?
No. Just one of our friends. I was looking at different insurance options, which is so riveting, and I'm not going to talk about it now.
But
time for a break?
All seriousness, I told you don't be listening to me.
I'm sorry.
In all seriousness, there's no one else I'd rather be tethered to be honest. I forgot what I was going to say.
Call bullshit.
No, I mean, maybe like Beyonce or somebody. But I love being tethered to you. I choose to be tethered to you. And even though this is a podcast about Black science fiction and fantasy, and Ben chose literally a white director today, we want to thank y'all for your Apple Podcast ratings. And if you submit an Apple Podcast rating on Apple Podcasts, we will read them on the show. The good, the bad, the ugly.
Please send them. I need to feel good about myself.
I don't make you feel good about yourself.
It's a mixed bag with you.
A mixed bag.
A mixed bag.
What's in the bag?
Sometimes it's like you didn't wash the dishes all the way through. Or
You've been washing dishes, though.
I know, but like,
well, the dishwasher's been washing.
If I don't do them correctly, you get upset. Like you see this, like sometimes you've gotten a lot better, but early when I tried to do the dishes, Amber would like literally come to me and like hold a glass up into the light and show me like how I did it wrong, which is a huge motivation to keep washing dishes. Like, hey, if you want somebody to do something, let's just show them how wrong they do it. All-star teacher right here.
It's like watching your child, Amber, like, say, like, I want to put my clothes on myself. It's like, okay. And then they put on, like, Crocs to go out in the snow. And you're like, okay, well, should I just let this happen?
Yes, you should.
So if our child is like, because I'm only saying that because I'm looking outside right now. We live in Chicago, if you didn't know, and it is snowing something wicked outside. And so let's say Wild wakes up and is like, we're gonna go on a family walk to walk the dog, and I want to wear flip flops out there. You're just gonna let her wear those?
Hell yeah, fucking learn.
And potentially cry and get frostbite and potentially like step on ice.
That's how you learn. So
what if she cut her foot on some ice?
I mean, obviously, you do it in a safer kind of way, but you prepare yourself to walk down, have her go outside for like a minute, and be prepared to walk straight back up with the dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but in this analogy, it's you. So you don't walk out for a minute and go straight back outside. You walk outside in these Crocs for the better part of an hour or two.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about like the dish analogy you just gave. I was like, okay, I'm watching him do something incorrectly. Should I just let this be done incorrectly and let all these dishes be dirty and then we're eating on dirty dishes?
No.
Or should I say let me just pop in now?
No, because I will eventually notice it. You have to trust that I will notice it and fix it myself.
But I can't help you notice it.
Yeah, you can. You can see the dirty dish, just put it back in the sink.
And you'll be like, no, it's not. It's clean to me.
No, I would not.
Yes, you would.
I literally just did dishes this morning, and I saw 2 dishes that weren't cleaned correctly. I put them back in the sink.
And that's probably because I once held them up into the light for you.
No, that's not true.
So I've done nothing to support your
that's a
journey.
Huge demotivation.
That's not what I said. Have I done anything to help you with your journey?
Yeah, you got pregnant, which now forces my hand to work and clean.
I got pregnant. All on my own.
Keep getting pregnant.
Immaculate
Amber.
conception.
Keep getting pregnant, and that will help me become a
getting pregnant forced your
partner.
hand. You sound like a dick. It's like, well, my wife got pregnant, so now I have to help out around the house. That's what
I
you
was
just
helping
said.
out before.
You were helping out with what?
The thing is, you're sort of a control freak, and
I'll admit that.
self-admittedly a control freak. Like you're not a control freak. That you're not a freak about it. But I mean, you're freaky, but not in that way, in a good way. But if something is not done right, you would rather not teach someone how to do it correctly, especially if they're an adult, and you would rather just do it yourself to save yourself time. And so now you are unable to do certain things by yourself. So you must either 1, let it slide, 2, teach me, or 3, trust me.
Those are horrible options. And you're somebody who doesn't care either way. So like, I'm a control freak, and Ben is someone who's like, those dishes can sit for weeks. I don't care.
Not anymore. Yeah, I'm trying to. No, I don't think I can. At a point in my life, yes. Actually, it was so bad one time.
And that point was 2 weeks ago.
I was not doing my dishes. I had a roommate.
Yeah, tell it like it is. Tell it like it is.
Roommate, and I had a roommate literally take my dishes. I think most of them were mine, but I think a couple of them were not, and put the dishes in front of my room. Literally in a pile of them. This person was so mean.
Looking back, were they mean, or were they just fed up and not being fucked by you, so they didn't have to be nice about it?
Both.
Or maybe they were being fucked by you. I don't know.
They were not.
Sometimes roommates be fucking.
They were not. They were not
having sex with you.
Absolutely not. And I think this person was just fed up.
Yeah.
They're probably justifiably so.
So I haven't done anything that mean. I've just been like, hey, let's go over how to.
You have, but
I've laid all of the dishes in front of your door.
But you've done something comparably mean,
like showing you the smudges and the light.
But you have been like willing to admit that you were wrong. This person, like, no apology, and just consistently mean.
Let me ask you a question before we go on a quick break. When that person put those I am admitting that is not cool, okay? And I'm admitting that probably demotivated you. When that person, that old mean, we'll air quote mean, because we don't have their side of the story, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. When that person put those dirty dishes that you consumed, that you had been letting sit for weeks, when they put those in front of your door, what was your course of action after? Did you say, like, damn, I need to, like, step it up and clean my shit? Like, this is oh,
absolutely not. I was like, because here's the thing. I think there are lots of different kinds of people in the world. And I know that I don't necessarily do things to be cruel or to be vindictive or to be mean.
Right.
This person did things to be intentionally cruel, vindictive, and mean.
Yeah.
Because, and if you consider it what we call like the precedent behavior, my precedent behavior that caused that was like unaware, or maybe
it's like you shot first in their head, because that's how I'd be feeling too.
But the things I would do, I didn't intentionally do it to like be like an asshole, to be cruel. And this person's response was like, I want to hurt Ben. Like, I want to make Ben feel stupid or ignorant or...
But I'm telling you, in the moment, because I've been in that person's shoes, it's like, well, I accidentally shot you. It's like, yeah, but you still shot me.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it feels like.
Exactly. And I think there's a whole conversation around, like, what is the more... Who's ultimately in the wrong, or what blame is to be shared, or how do you reconcile that when someone does something unintentionally, is willing to admit that they did something wrong, and then how do you move forward from that? Or
how did you move forward from that like very malicious act?
I think I washed the dishes, and it
was effective.
I probably said
that's good for me.
probably said I was sorry, but I also felt awful and terrible and didn't like coming out of my room.
Yeah, that's shitty.
In that space, which is like a consequence of people being intentionally cruel or mean, right? Like you don't want to be around them. And especially if you're having a living space, that's no way to live, right? But that was that person's intent. They didn't want me coming out of my room, right? Like they didn't want me to be in that space. They didn't want me around. They didn't want me as a roommate. And that's where I think you're like, okay, now you're you're a intentionally terrible human. You're trying to be cruel and vindictive.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I'm not, because this is what you do with me. Did they at any point try to have a conversation with you about washing your own things? Did they try to say like, hey, we all contribute to this space? And then did you then ignore those, please?
Possibly. I don't remember. But this person's presentation and personality was like, if they did not like you, they were going to treat you terribly.
Yeah. And bully you.
Yeah. And the person came from anyway, I don't want to talk too much,
right.
but they came from a wealthier family than I did, and just had more resources and probably better training and on how to care for a home. And so I think that also had to play with it as well.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on. I'm just super glad that my living situation is nothing like that now.
Shut up.
Just kidding. Let's go on a break.
Love you. Let's take a break. Before we continue with the show, I wanted to talk a little bit about NOOM. NOOM uses the latest in behavioral science to empower people to take control of their health for good through a combination of psychology, technology, and human coaching on their platform to help millions of users meet their personal health and wellness goals. A lot of people face pressures to change themselves to fit other people's expectations, and the more freeing solution is to find things that work for you. Noom understands that everyone's weight loss journey is unique, and what works for someone else doesn't mean it'll work for you. That's why Noom's approach adapts to your lifestyle. It's flexible, and it focuses on progress, not perfection, allowing you to work toward your goals at a pace that's comfortable for you. Noom Weight makes it easy to start your weight loss journey and stay on track with personalized lessons that help you gain confidence and practical knowledge, one-on-one coaching, and a cognitive behavioral approach that teaches you how to be mindful of your habits. 75% of Noom Weight users finish the program, and more than 60% of users that engage with the program kept the weight off for a year or more. So start building better habits for healthier long-term results. Sign up for your trial at Noom.com/believe. Again, that's Noom, NOOM.com/believe. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Check them out at BetterHelp.com/sci-fi. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Why invest in everything else and not your mind? This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and the Sci-Fi Sci podcast listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/sci-fi. That's BetterHelp.com/sci-fi. All right, we are back. Ben, I promise you that, if you forget to change a diaper or something, I will not place wild outside of your bedroom door and make you stay in there.
That's very funny. It's very funny.
Okay, maybe I should do that. But yeah, that's mean. And I try not to be mean to you because I actually like you a little bit. Just a little bit. All right, why don't you talk to these people about this movie directed by a white man?
Yeah, so there is a couple. It starts off with a marriage, a black wedding.
Yep.
And it's filled with joy and happiness. And there is a Dr. Jackson, a black woman doctor, who also shows up to the wedding. And
was she black?
Yeah, she's black. She's a black woman. I thought
she was white.
No, she's a black woman.
Okay.
Yep, she's a black woman, and she decides to give, her will over her house. She has this big house to this family, this new couple whose husband sort of just lost his job. And we discovered that Dr. Jackson, for the bride in this case, Dr. Jackson loved the bride's father. And so they...
he might have been the one that got away.
The one that got away. Lo and behold, we find out that even though she's willed over this house, unbeknownst to everyone in this town, she has an Ingagi, which is like this half man, half ape creature living in her basement that she took back from Africa when she was a missionary. And she, I guess, she has like a lab underneath there, and she's created this serum that supposedly will solve all the world's problems. The Ingagi drinks the serum, and it makes him go, ballistic, and he ends up killing Dr. Jackson.
Yeah, he's no longer subservient.
Yeah,
if you
subservient, and so then it goes off from there. And then so the family, this young couple, they live in this house, but unbeknownst to them, there's a half man, half ape beast living in the basement. It's almost comparable to Parasite.
Okay.
Remember Parasite, where
I loved Parasite. I'm just trying to think about the connection you're making.
There's a man living in the basement unbeknownst to the people who own the house, right?
Correct.
And sort of it follows from there. And there's a detective, because people keep up showing up dead at this house, who's trying to figure out, why are people dying in this house?
Yeah.
And that's sort of the film. It's very short. It's an hour long. It's important for lots of different reasons. And so like the question that we were going to think about is like, how is this film revolutionary?
Right.
So for you, like, what sort of struck you about this film?
Even though it was based in the 40s, it actually paced pretty well, except for like near the end. It was refreshing to see the movie start and mostly thread Black joy throughout it. I get that this monster is like terrorizing people, but like we're starting with this Black wedding, and then there's like a reception, and we're talking about Black people that have great jobs, and the detective is Black, so
the lawyer is Black.
The lawyer is Black, so when you have an all Black cast, you don't have as much like, well, what's gonna happen? Who's gonna get hung or who's gonna get slain? So it kind of took the pressure off from just like blatant racism being involved in the horror movie, which is like, if you think about a lot of Black horror, it is rooted in racism and racism's relations, like Black people's relationship to whiteness. Like even if you think about like some of our favorite Black horror films, like Get Out, Us, like think about things that we've watched, His House, even like all of those horror films were rooted in the real monster is racism. So when you remove that, I think that's pretty revolutionary.
Yeah, and that's what Robin Coleman writes about, that there was an original movie called Ingagi, and Ingagi was a highly racist film about these group of men. They go to the Congo and they discover these like Congolese women having sex with Ingagis and like producing children, and associates like Black sexuality with like bestiality essentially. And so this film, Son of Ingagi, takes that and sort of removes, because Ingagi is just a monster. It becomes a monster film. And because there's no white people and there's no, this racial undertones, then it just becomes like a film about a couple trying to survive a monster.
Right, which I like. What else has felt like that? Like Blackula, maybe? Or even Ganja and Hess wasn't very... Like there might have been one or two scenes where there was an interaction between a white person and a Black person, but it mostly was not about that. It was about like, we can just tell a horror thriller story. It's so funny because there's this, we'll post it in the Patreon. There's this like TikTok video where it was like a legit good funny joke made by this white person about black people that wasn't racist, that wasn't like it was funny. And then there's this like black girl responding being like, this was funny, but let's talk about slavery. And all these black people are like, oh God damn it. Like, yes. And it's
why do we have to,
yes, like just let the joke live. Like, it was a good joke, it wasn't racially motivated, and so I think the film was revolutionary because it was a black horror thriller done with racism being completely absent. What was revolutionary about it for you?
Having an all black cast, I think this was one of the first films to do that, and besides the first film, which is, if you've watched the trailer for Nope, very excited, but they start with the first film ever, which I've shown my students, and it is a black jockey riding a horse.
Right.
And so the first film ever created, it stars a black person, and is an all black cast. So I think that was revolutionary. And I keep on thinking, like, how does having an all black cast disrupt racism? Right. And I was thinking a couple of things. It prevents you from really having to talk about it explicitly, which we see in Eve's Bayou. It's an all-black cast.
Right.
And there's no reference, little bit here and there to, like, just in language, right, when they call her red, right? So there's this...
Yeah, there might be some, like, splashes of colorism, you know.
Right, which is a form of racism.
Yes. I wasn't insinuating that it wasn't.
But I thought, I keep on thinking, what other ways does having an all-black cast disrupt racism? I was like, lots of ways.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna lie to you. When I saw the doctor, I thought she was white. Please go back and look at the film on YouTube. I assumed that the doctor was white and that her brother was white, but I was also taking a very luxurious bubble bath with some of the Epsom salt that you purchased. I let that go, and I've actually really been enjoying the Epsom salt bath.
For those who don't know, I bought like an 8-gallon tub of Epsom salt because I was tired of buying those little plastic bags and wasting so much plastic, and they were more expensive, so I was doing it for economical reasons, and I hated the idea of keep on having to like walk back and forth with these tiny bags. Even though we live right across the street from a grocery store, I still didn't want to do that, so I took the initiative.
You did.
And bought a bigger thing. So
you've been crushing it. I talk a lot of shit, but you really have stepped your pussy up in these last few weeks.
Thank you. Yeah, my pussy is all the way up.
Way up.
It's like the top of my head. My pussy is on the top of my head.
See,
just fuck me in the head.
This is why I can't give you a compliment, because here you go.
I run with it. I run that pussy upwards.
Okay.
I got a pussy mouth. It's so high in my mouth.
This is so...
Okay.
You.
It is.
Gucci's on the bed, like, falling asleep. Right? He's fighting sleep because we're incredibly boring.
We're not incredibly.
I'm just kidding.
Don't say that.
He's like, oh, you two talking about racism again. God damn
it. The other thing is we have Spencer Williams in the show. He was the half of the Amos and Andy show, which was a problematic sort of slapstick comedy that was very popular among the whites, and eventually the NCAAP, and then also I think it was the ACLU. NAACP, sorry. And the ACLU both sort of sued CPS to take it off. But Spencer Williams does have some of that slapstick comedy in this film, and because it's slapstick, for example, he keeps on trying to make a sandwich, and the Ingagi, the monster, keeps on taking it away, and it's funny.
It is funny, and it's a little awkward because that was an opportunity to put some funny music underneath, and it was absent. So I just think about, like, you know, it's like if you made a TikTok with no music under, it's like it's still funny, but it doesn't in the way that a little bit of music does.
So this film really was not expected to do well for two reasons. It was what Robin Coleman calls, it was a double B, low budget and black. Two strikes against it, which I thought was
I'm going to start using that. Like,
low budget and
go
black.
Support a black business, and I'm like, God damn it.
That's Coleman's.
Y'all were set up to fail because of that double B.
That double B.
No budget, low budget and black.
But it did surprisingly well, you know, and the low budget is because of the music. Even though they did have like the 4 tones, they did have a real sort of band do like the opening scene, which I would have been so pissed if like you go to your honeymoon and then all your friends show up.
Because gosh, yes.
Like that's the opening scene.
Yeah.
And I thought it was worked very well, but also like it just felt like something that, you know, Black people would do.
Right, like everybody shows up at the house after the thing. Yes, yeah. I mean, we recently went to a dear friend of mine like recently had a loss in her family, and then I was like, well, Ben, we're all gonna go over to the house, and Ben's like, they probably like I don't think you were pushing back, but you were like, what? And I was like, just go. I was like, go pick up like 30 biscuits from Popeyes, and you were just like, what? And I was like, that's what you do. You like Jewish people would call it sitting shiva, right?
Yeah.
But Black people were just like, let's just all go over to this person's house, pretend like the person who was major in their life didn't die, and just eat a shit ton of Popeyes biscuits, like, and just talk about everything but the actual death.
Well, that's not entirely true. There was some talk of the death, but not like a. It was more comedy. It was more comedy or yeah. But yeah, it seemed, I don't know. It's like this is definitely like more of a white thing where white people are like, I want my privacy, like, you know, stay away. Yeah. And everyone's like, when deaths happen, marriage, you know, it's just
everybody goes over to the house. You have the repast. Yeah, you're like, I do not want to be alone with my thoughts because that's gonna be bad. So that's
that's really the only thing I like being alone with.
Yeah, you're gonna be fucked. I mean, like when we have this baby, it's gonna be people all up and through this house.
Yes, well, I am more prepared now for that. So, but in the film, it does show that experience.
Yeah,
and this film was so popular because up until this point, Black people were really only being shown as slaves, servants, you know, and they were never shown as lawyers. They were never shown as just having fun, kicking it, and like having a wedding and like talking about a honeymoon and like having all your friends prank you. Yeah. Like that was just unfucking heard of to see that in a film. And this movie touched a lot of people's hearts, which again, I'm sorry that it's a white director, but it was very difficult.
It was a Black experience, the film was. I will say that.
Yeah.
It felt very much so like this white director sort of was like, I'm going to film this, but this story arc is going to be very Black.
Yeah.
Like it felt that way. And I don't know. The older I get, the more I'm kind of like, I'm sure Amos N Andy was like highly offensive, but I remember talking to my dad and him being like, that was one of my favorite shows. And sometimes it's like, this show served a purpose at the time, because at that time you weren't seeing any Black or like what we'll probably call colored people on TV at that time. So when you boycott and then take the one Black show off the air, it's like, I know that it wasn't I know that it wasn't PC, but can you bring those two clowns back, and can we just have a discussion about what's
but it's what we had. But it's what we had.
Yeah, yes. It can feel very much so like that. Or I remember even just like with the whole Aunt Jemima thing, like my parents are like, well, it was nice having just one Black face in the house, like on a product, even though it was like definitely not a Black owned company or anything.
I think and even a more relevant example is the L word. The L word fucked up in a lot of ways, and like lots of not lots, but like transphobic shit. Yeah. And but that was like what lesbians had to watch, right? That is our representation. So you hold on to that, you grasp it. Where today I think we've become a lot less patient for bullshit, especially when it comes to representation. Like you can't just put a Black character in a book or in a film for the purpose of being diverse. You have to actually think about writing the other, to borrow a phrase of a curriculum that's literally used to teach writers how to write in a way that's respectful of identities in which they're not a part of. Nisi Shaw is one of the people who has that curriculum. It's called Writing the Other. So,
and I really think there's something very powerful when you can just have the original and show the inverted version next to it. I was reading Michaela Cole's book last night, Misfits, which I highly, highly, highly recommend. It's a very short personal manifesto. And she talked about in one of her early scripts having this Malaysian character, and they called her and said, like, the script is great, but this Malaysian character just feels very two-dimensional. Like, you got to make some edits here. And she admitted to saying, like, well, I'll just take her out the story. Like, if you don't like it, like, I did my best to represent, and you didn't like it, so that was me trying. Let me just take her out the story.
Or you could go talk to someone from Malaysia.
Right, yeah, and then later she was like, I sat with myself. And this person might have been who became, like, the second part of the duo in Chewing Gum or something like that. But she said she just remembers feeling like just like completely reacting to like, how dare y'all? I like, when have you even seen a Malaysian person in film and TV? And now
not
you're criticizing.
Good enough anymore.
That's not
enough.
Yes. So she talked about like one, she admitted she did that in her own personal manifesto, and two, she admitted, like, I was wrong. Like, if people call you out on needing to develop characters, like, keep the original character that you had, make those invert or change that character, upgrade it, and then introduce that new character until it gets better and better and better. And I know as an artist with me, I do that to you all the time. I'm like, oh, like, you didn't like the way I did this, and you're like, well, Amber, this is your first draft of it. You didn't map it out. You just like made it and thought I was gonna tell you it was the Mona Lisa, and it wasn't. Like, just go make it better. It doesn't mean you should take this out of the story. And so I'm not saying like Amos and Andy should definitely be on TV. I'm saying keep Amos and Andy, and then somebody maybe make a new show inspired by Amos and Andy and show like, this is what we actually needed. Like, I would love and there have been that, right? Like, if it wasn't for Amos and Andy, there wouldn't have been a Key and Peele.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to like know your history in that way. And I'm sure, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm sure if we talk to Michael Key and Jordan Peele, they would be like, oh yeah, these were the first black guys who were like the Three Stooges, and we wanted like a two-man black guy comedy dynamic like that. So I think it's important to, have that lineage, talk about what was wrong with it, and invert it.
And speaking of Malaysian writers or actors, recently there was a Malaysian born author, Zen Cho, who won a Hugo Award. So just shout out to like people who are actually writing their own stories. And also sensitivity readers as well. Like, if you had a Malaysian character in your story, instead of giving up and realizing, like, actually let me pay someone to read my story and tell me how I can make this better, right? And those are sensitivity readers. So
yeah, and these perspectives matter. Like,
they do.
Last night we damn near cried. We were just watching some Pixar shorts, and there's this one called Loop that shows a character who has a disability, and she's mute. And it's like, I'm sure someone in the universe has a mute child, and that child doesn't communicate exactly like this. I'm sure there was some critique, but that wasn't enough of a reason to like just completely pull this character out. Like,
we wouldn't say mute, we'd say nonverbal.
Nonverbal.
Yeah, nonverbal.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
I think mute implies that you don't have an ability to communicate or make noise. Or
yes.
She's communicating and speaking, but not using the words. That we.
Thank you for
so nonverbal. Yeah.
Correcting my language there. Yes. This if you've seen Loop, it's like the Spark shorts. It's really good. This character is nonverbal, and there's this other character who is verbal and just being super patient. And I'm sure if I Googled right now, like, problems with loops, there's
people
there's threads on threads on threads.
Well, yeah, and which is fine. And I think what creators have to recognize is that they're going to make mistakes, and not to let those mistakes prevent them from backing down. Of like keep creating, like recognizing, like, oh, I see it. Like that creator who made that video. about, actually,
TikTok?
the TikTok
Okay.
video about actually the reason that Black people can't stand still while hearing a joke.
Oh, going back to the one we talked about
Yeah,
earlier.
we'll put the link for the video, but the question was, name a thing that white people can do that Black people can't. And this white guy made a funny joke saying, like, white people can hear a joke and stay still.
Yeah.
Right. And so everyone's laughing. It's funny. But then this
Like
Black
stay in the
woman,
same physical space.
yeah, this Black woman comes on and says, like, oh, that's a funny joke, but there's a reason for that. So it harkens back to slavery. Yeah. So people are like making fun of her and being like calling her a vibe killer. And I think she went back and deleted that video,
which she shouldn't have done.
She shouldn't have done, and she should have put her toes down and actually talked about it, kept it on there.
I could tell you're like, because I always say, I was like, stand 10 toes down in your bullshit.
10, own up to it and recognize, sure, like maybe TikTok is not the greatest place to like deconstruct,
but some people wanted to hear the argument.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
We especially now. Well, it's funny because we still saw that video even though she erased it. So sometimes people think like, okay, let me just do damage control and let me just stop all these notifications from coming in by just deleting it. Where it's like, I've never seen any TikTok video where I'm like, you should take this down immediately. I've seen some where I'm like, whoa, this is next level. You should respond to it, or you should consider what people have to say in the comments. But like, when you take it down, you're pretending like it never existed, and it still exists. Like, people have screenshots of it now.
You should stand by everything you say.
I didn't say that.
I think you should. And here,
I'm somebody who loves to double down on my bullshit.
Yeah. What I mean by stand by is recognize I said this.
I said what I said. Nene leaks.
No, not that. That's different. I think you should stand by what you said, but maybe not stand on the same space of what you said it.
Okay.
So what I mean is, like, you say something and you no longer believe that. Stand by it in the sense like, oh, I said that thing. I no longer believe that.
Right.
Here is why.
I agree.
Right. And I think there's a difference between standing in the space in which you said the thing compared to standing by what you said, or standing adjacent to what you said.
Or there's this world of, like, Nicole Byer talks all the time about, like, I made some offensive jokes back in the day and I don't even bring it up. Like, other people bring it up and I just don't have it in my set now, or I'll just like rework how I do the joke, but I don't have to make this like huge statement about it, because some people didn't even know I made it, or did, like, you got pulled aside by one or two people.
And I think I'm having a problem with, at times I'm teaching older film to some of my students and they see things that are problematic. And thank God I'm doing a decent job previewing, saying like, you're going to see something problematic.
Right.
You still should watch this. For example, we watched about 15 minutes of Birth of a Nation, which is one of the first American films. It's terribly racist, but I prepped them. We read an article before.
You sort of gave them the trigger warnings.
I read an article before. I explained to them why this is important. And ultimately, I wasn't going to show them to this film, but we interviewed P. Jelly Clark, and he's like, "Oh, I make he's a film and also a film teacher, film professor, but also an incredible author." And he said, "I make all my students watch all 2.5 hours of The Birth of a Nation."
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Like,
maybe not for your 8th graders.
Yeah, not for my 8th graders, but we watched about 15 minutes of it, and we discussed why this film is important to film and film history, but also the problems with it, and how we can't erase some of these things. We can't censure them. Like, yes, some of it Ingagi has problems with it. Sure, like, it's sexist. Like, the woman stays home, she doesn't work. Dr. Jackson makes a fat phobic comment in the beginning, like, I don't trust detectives, especially when they're fat, like.
Or there's this whole scene about, like, I mean, the premise of, like, on my mission trip to Africa, I brought home this creature, like,
There are things wrong with it, but if you want to understand Black horror, if you want to understand Black film, if you want to understand that, you should watch this movie, right? You shouldn't delete it from. You shouldn't delete it, right? And I think that's what we're talking about.
I would hate if this movie was erased from history,
right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of the thing I think we're getting to is that, yes, Amos and Andy, super problematic. But if you're going to study comedy, you're going to study slapstick comedy, you're going to study black comedians, you don't steer away from watching it.
They're like, this is just some big minstrel show. It's like, but here are the ways that this show was actually revolutionary.
Yes.
And any black comedians today stand on the shoulders of Amos and Andy. Like, that just is the reality. Like, you can be mad, but especially like big physical comedian black performers, like this is like, I could totally see Martin Lawrence seeing Amos and Andy as a kid and being like, I want to be a comedian one day. I can be a comedian one day. And here's how, you know.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I want to go and check what comedians actually were inspired by Spencer Williams, and who explicitly said that as well. But I watch this film. It's incredible.
Period.
It's only an hour long, so you can.
And it's very, I mean, like near the end, the pacing is like, okay. But I didn't find myself being like, damn, this sucks.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a B movie, so like do a fun, you know, you can create a drinking game out of it. Like, I don't know. What drinking game could you...
Or you could just watch the film.
Or you could just watch it. I love watching B-movie films.
Right,
you know? Anyway.
It's a good time. Well, Ben, with that being said, why don't you warp up the show?
Right. In conclusion, Son of Ingagi is an important film in black horror. You should definitely watch it. It's free on YouTube. Do not watch it on Amazon Prime because the quality is the same and you save $2. Also,
sounds like you're speaking from personal experience.
Yes, I might be. Also, read Hard Noir by Robin Coleman. She does an excellent job exploring the importance of Son of Ingagi and the context in which it was created. All right, y'all. Peace, love.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Sci-Fi Sci Podcast. Up next, I know this movie came out a long time ago, but we're going to do it anyway because one half of the director team is black, and Kemp Powers, who we're going to watch a movie later this year in August, he is a part of that directorial team. So we're going to be watching Soul again on Disney Plus. I say again because we've seen it already and probably lots of people have, but it's a black story and we're going to do it, god damn it. So watch Soul on Disney Plus if you have not seen it. And we will see y'all next week for the show. Bye, y'all.